It is now my pleasure to introduce Jodie Jensen. Jodie is an empathy researcher at Brigham Young University and is going to talk about empathy circles in families. Talk to us, Jodie.
Well, I am going to share my screen in just a minute, but I just wanted to, first of all, thank all of you for the opportunity to be here. I have had such a great pleasure to be able to get to know a few of the people who are involved in the Empathy Center and the Empathy Tents and the Empathy Circle. And I count it as a really deep privilege to be able to associate with all of you. I'm really humbled by the work that you're doing and the movement that you're trying to put forward. If you don't mind, I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable here and share a little bit of my backstory for why empathy matters to me in the first place. So, like she said, I'm going to be talking about empathy in the family because I do have a family of my own, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of why that's important to me. So, going all the way back to the year 2000, I think it was, when I was in high school. Some of you may remember this movie that came out, Miss Congeniality. I was in high school, so I was kind of obsessed with this movie when it came out. But with each of these contestants in this beauty pageant, they would say, I want world peace. And that was the kind of canned answer that they all gave. But I found myself thinking, like she does at the end of the movie, but I really do want world peace. And so why are people saying that this is kind of just a canned thing that is something that you can't actually attain? Because at that point in my life, I was naive and starry-eyed, and I thought that I could change the world. And so to that end, I studied international development, and after that, I got a job in West Africa, and I deeply enjoyed my opportunity to serve people there and work and learn from people in Mali, West Africa. We worked with women and families. We worked with communities. We taught leaders how to be stronger leaders and business owners. We gave them micro loans. We helped build wells. We helped fund teachers so that the children could go to school. It was a deeply, deeply gratifying time of my life. But something that I saw that came out of that was a lot of the people that I was working with had a lot of compassion. They really wanted to help make a difference in the world. But something that they lacked was, and I'm not saying everybody lacked it, but something that we could all do better in our efforts to help other people was to have more empathy. And by that, I mean understanding other people's perspective. And so during this same time that I was working in Mali, West Africa, I actually found out that I was not going to be able to have children. So I had an ectopic pregnancy that nearly took my life and did some serious damage internally. And so with that, I really threw myself into my work because I thought, I mean, being a parent was something that I always wanted. I knew it was going to be part of my future, and now it was not going to be part of my future. And so I found that I was okay with it because I had a meaningful type of work that I could be involved in. But a miracle did happen. My husband and I were able to have our first child in 2010. And in that moment, my whole world shifted. And I went from focusing out here in the world, I call this my spheres of influence. I was focused out in the world and I was really wanting to change the world. I wanted world peace. But what I started to realize, we can kind of imagine this as like a cross section side view. It goes deep. When you focus on areas that are closer to the center of your spheres of influence, you might not have as broad of an influence in the world. But what I found was that I had a much deeper influence. I was able to help my children write their story from the beginning. And beyond all medical reasoning, I don't even know how these miracles happened, but I've been able to have four more children, and they have blessed my life in immeasurable ways. I've been deeply grateful for the opportunity that I've had to be a mother. So I want to kind of fast forward to the last few years. After I knew I was done having children, I started looking back out to the broader world. So I had been focusing on self and family so deeply. And I found so much gratification there. But I started to think, what else is outside of this? And so I started moving my view a little bit further outside. But I wanted to be able to focus on my family as well. So I started blogging about our experience as a family learning emotional intelligence. And online, I found a community of parents who were deeply yearning and hungering for more resources to help their children to become more emotionally intelligent. And so over the course of a few years, I wrote this book. You can find it on Amazon if you're interested. Teaching Your Children Emotional Intelligence. This is a workbook that I created. And through the process, I found that not only was my family's life being really enhanced and bettered through this process, but other people's families were able to improve as well in their communication. So I found that perhaps this was a way that I could kind of bridge the gap between focusing on myself and my family and also focusing on the outside world. So fast forward again to today, I'm now studying psychology. I'm getting a PhD right now. And for the past 9 or 10 months, I've been working with Edwin on the empathy definition project. And so I wanted to kind of get into a little bit of the definitions. And with his permission, I'm going to share the current model of the way that we're conceptualizing the definition of empathy. And if you saw my talk last summit, we can see that there are a lot of convoluted definitions out there in academia and also in people's current lay understanding of what the word means. But in terms of how it is conceptualized within the empathy circle and through Edwin's intense research that he's done over the past 15 years or so, and my own as well, this is kind of the model that he's come up with, and I feel privileged to be able to share it with you with his permission again. And so I just want to kind of walk through this and then show you how it maps onto my experience in the Empathy Circle training that just finished last week. So I'm now officially an Empathy Circle facilitator, which is exciting. But then also my experience is sharing the Empathy Circle with my family. All right, so we start here with self-empathy. So understanding yourself. And so that really overlaps heavily with emotional intelligence, because the models of emotional intelligence are kind of your understanding of yourself, your regulation of yourself, but then also understanding other people and interacting effectively. So I like that this model is a very emotionally intelligent model of empathy that also includes that self-empathy component. Basic empathy is the way that it can be understood is the interpersonal bridge. So leaving your inner world and venturing into the world of somebody else. And so that would be the role of a listener in an empathy circle. Imaginative empathy, and Edwin has said that this is often not something that is used in the empathy circle. There are specific cases where it's really effective to use this in an empathy circle, but I will share a little bit of my thoughts about imaginative empathy as well. Then there's mutual empathy, which is a shared understanding and connection. So that is the overall quality of the group. So if you have an empathy circle, you can start to think, how is our empathic, our mutual empathy within this group? And then based on this shared understanding that we have this mutual empathy, then we work together toward empathic action. And I like that he has here, this is mutually agreed action. And so if we are wanting to make a decision about how to help someone, like in my experience working in West Africa, if we were to more deeply understand the needs of the people we're helping and also the strengths of the people that we're helping, then we can get a better understanding of what would be best for them. And I think that that's very applicable in our family relationships, in our work relationships, in all of our relationships, understanding first and then moving forward. Okay, I love this quote from Carl Jung. He says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So I just wanted to share a quick experience. I'm going so overtime on this, so I'm going to keep this brief and try and get to the most important bits of this. So in the Empathy Circle training, there was a time when I was the speaker and my active listener was the facilitator, and he was really focused on making sure he had the timer going. And so there was a moment when I was saying something that he actually kind of missed what I was saying. And so when he reflected back to me, it wasn't quite what I had intended. And so in that moment, I had to practice some self awareness. I had to have some self empathy and also some mutual empathy to understand, oh, the way that I'm communicating is not being well received. So I love that both of these, actually all three of these, so self-empathy, basic empathy, and mutual empathy, actually also empathic action were at play in that, because I had to have self-awareness to recognize that I was not being understood. And that was also an understanding of the level of empathy within the group. So I had to engage in some empathic action by changing the way that I was communicating in order to help my listener better understand what I meant. This has also played out with my family. I have 6-year-old twins, and they love the empathy circle. They think that it's a really wonderful experience where they can feel seen and they can feel heard. But there have been times where their ability to engage in basic empathy is very rudimentary, because when I say it's your turn to reflect back, they just repeat word for word what the person has said. So if one of them says, I love my family, the other one will just repeat back, I love my family. So it's been an interesting opportunity for me to meet them where they are and help them by scaffolding on top of their understanding. And I'm going to show you this. This is in line with Lev Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. And so where they are, where they can do something very comfortably on their own is right here. But perhaps for my children, especially my 6-year-olds, stepping out into this new framework of active listening and reflective listening is something that they can do with help. And so I'm scaffolding. I can show you this right here. If you can see this, this is a beautiful building, right? So where they are is a beautiful place. And from there, we scaffold on the outside to help them to grow and to progress. This is just a fun little graphic that kind of shows, this is adapted from John Gottman's book, Raising an Emotionally Intelligent Child. So often when we see that our children are not understanding what we want them to understand, we just get frustrated. So this child is just living her best life and her parents are over here frustrated. So what I would recommend in all of our interactions with people who have different understandings from us, and specifically with our own children, is we need to walk down this path of empathy, join them where they are, affirm that where they are is legitimate, and then start coaching. Because too often we jump to, oh, you're doing it wrong, and we start coaching, but we need to affirm that where they are is legitimate and it's okay. Okay, so I don't have time to talk about imaginative empathy, but maybe in a future summit, I'll talk about some of the thoughts that I have about that. Basically, my main takeaway with that is that children love imagination. They love putting themselves into different scenarios and acting things out. And so I'm excited to implement that into my empathy circles with my children. And so just to conclude, I have seen all areas of this framework play out in the empathy circle training and also with my family. And I feel deeply gratified to have been a part of this. And again, I'm very grateful for Edwin and all those who have provided empathy to me, because I have found that it has blessed my life. And I hope to be able to bless the lives of other people through this process as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jodie. That was amazing. I heard moving from I can change the world and literally doing that through holy bunches of family trauma to hope. I heard starting with that deep influence, that self and family space, and then sharing that up and out from that depth. And I heard mirroring that into that in out practice with those 5 parts of the holistic empathy so that we can change the world. And we're doing that. Empathy scaffolding. Oh, I love that. Okay, everybody, make sure you check out Jodie's book, Teaching Your Children Emotional Intelligence Without Losing Your Own. Any parent couldn't understand how helpful that will be.
Yeah, I'm going to
Thank
put that in the chat as well.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you, Jodie.